Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Raise podcast. We're here for another word. We've looked at the word connection. We've looked at the word unexpected. And today we're going to look at the word activate. And I've asked Bryn Llewellyn to come and talk to us all about being activated and what it means. So good morning, Bryn.
Hello, Carol. Lovely to meet you. Shame it's not in a coffee shop in Chapelton or someplace else in Leeds. Maybe next time.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. Yeah, it's all starting to get a little bit back to normal, isn't it now? So, yes, Zoom will have to do for today. How are you doing today? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. Been spending quite a lot of time in Bradford recently, doing a lot of research with Born in Bradford and Leeds University in various Bradford schools. And it's a case of filming this afternoon at a school in Leeds. So, yeah, once today is finished, I can just chill a little bit. So, yeah.
Oh, so you've got a real recording day today. Podcast, because they're becoming famous, friends. You've got a podcast, then you've got a film. Is it like Hollywood? Is it
more indie than Hollywood? Yeah, we'll go for indie feeling.
Indie's cool. That is very cool. Like that definitely suits you. Brilliant. So our word today is activate. So first of all, what does the word activate mean to you?
To me, it's about starting. I think starting up, starting to go. It's about moving. It's certainly about putting words into actions. So it's activating thoughts, feelings, emotions in different ways rather than just sitting down, I suppose.
Yeah. I can't, you might be able to help me, or my listeners might be able to help me at some point. There's a game show and somebody says the word activate, and I can't think what it is. It's like a really deep robotic voice. But no, listeners, if you know what I'm talking about, please get in touch with me, because it's going to be one of those, it's going to be in my head all day now trying to work out what it is. But yeah, so, and that the whole thing of activate, it made me think of a bank card. Like if you don't activate your bank card, it's null and void, isn't it? You can't use it.
It just sits there. It just stays there. It does nothing. You can look at it, but you can't do anything with it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, activate's going to be a good one. So you do this amazing thing called Tagtivate, which is why I thought about the word activate, because clearly that's kind of one of the reasons why you've called it Tagtivate. Tell us all about it. What do you do?
Well, I used to be a teacher, a male in a primary school. In those days, you became the PE lead by default. Right. Then I became deputy head teacher, acting head teacher. And that's where we first connected at the very wonderful Bowling Park Primary School in Bradford, where you were a governor and volunteer and doing a whole host of things, from assemblies or working with the children via the Raise project. You know, I think that's where we first connected. And it was during that time that we had this pot of money to work with artists and dramatists, musicians, filmmakers. So it was part of Create schools, and it was a case of, I don't know, inspiring children and families about raising aspirations by working with these wonderful external people, people like Dave Hulston, your good friend Vanessa as well, who's now over there in Colombia.
Building some kind of cabin in Colombia, isn't she? She's just amazing. But if you ever listen to this, we love you. You are an amazing person.
So once that pot of funding went, it was a case of like, oh, what am I going to do now? All the boring things you have to do in terms of pupil progress meetings and data management, etc., etc. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to do something different, because like schools play the game, they play the system in terms of getting children to pass their phonics screening, their Key Stage 1, the Key Stage 2 SATs. I thought there's got to be a better way to activate the learning. So I thought, what is the ultimate playground game? And it's TIG. or TAG, depending
Yeah.
on what part of the country you're in.
Yeah.
Bradford in its past had Bradford Bulls. In those 90s, Bradford Bulls were the team to go to, and their community spirit, their foundation was doing these wonderful programs with schools and families. One of them was tag rugby. And I always thought back then, tag rugby meets Scrabble, tag rugby meets countdown. If you put the numbers on the tags, could you develop math skills that way? And it was always at the back of my head. Could you do it? And it was after Bowling Park Primary School that I decided, you know what? If I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. It's just going to be sitting there in my head, and I needed to activate it. So I set up Tagtivate in 2013 and played with it for many, many years until 2017. And then that's when the first round of research kicked in. That proved impact or demonstrated impact in terms of maths fluency and also in terms of accuracy. So I just thought, rather than writing curriculum content for other people, which I still do occasionally, I would run with Tagtivate. And now it's like working with about 360 plus schools, and
Wow.
it's growing slowly, steadily, organically, no investment, just pure, a desire to make it work, to make it happen.
Yeah. And I think that's the bottom line, isn't it? If you've got a desire to work and make something happen, if something is kind of activated inside you, it's very hard to then go back on it, isn't it? Once something is like an idea is there, particularly for creatives like yourself and me, you can't switch it off, can you? It's like, no, I'm going to need to see this happen in some way. However, it can be very easy along the way to kind of get demotivated or have a big challenge like we've had in the last few years, and kind of put it to one side, and you haven't done that. And it's been inspiring to kind of just watch it grow and grow and grow. And it's such a good thing. I wish that Tagtivate had been around when I was a kid, because I had so many different things going on at home that when I came to school, the academic side of things just it didn't kick in for me. I wasn't, maths and particularly maths just wasn't important to me. What was important was how things were happening at home, how my family was. Literacy was different because I enjoyed it. And as a creative, I could always kind of get my teeth into the creative writing side of it. But maths was difficult. And also PE. People think it's hilarious that I'm married to an ex-PE teacher because they're like, Carol, you're like the least PE type person to ever exist. Yeah. But putting them together is just genius, because it kind of ticks all the most important boxes, and it kind of says to people, let's just throw it all up in the air and do it a different way.
Yeah, and it's not PE. I mean, there are elements of PE within it.
Yeah.
And I would say it's probably more play. It's definitely more physical activity, but to me, it's more play. Yeah. Sometimes you bring on board those reluctant learners in English or mathematics, and they don't even realize that they're doing English or maths till halfway through or the end of it. They see it as a playful experience. And the way that, I started off, let's try to make an active version of spelling. Let's think of a way to activate phonics. But you're right, it's so much more than that now. In terms of, I look back to what I put out to schools in the early days, I thought, well, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I'm like, it's part of the evolution, isn't it? The idea grows, and with the input from not just from teachers but children, they're the ones that come up with the best ideas, and you'll go, like, that's bonkers, that'll never work. But then when you talk to them about it, you think, whoa, hang on a moment, there's some mileage here. This is genius.
Yeah. But again, you have to be the kind of person that sees that potential in children, because there are a lot of people that would say exactly what you said, that's a bonkers idea, and just go, so we're not going to do that. But it takes someone very kind of different and special to say, okay, then let's have a go. It might be bonkers, but let's try it and see. And that then activates something in them. And who knows, I mean, the last interview I was doing was about impact, and the people that I was speaking to didn't realize how much impact they'd even had on each other. until the podcast interview, and then it suddenly came out that one had really impacted the other. And it's the same with children. You don't realize what you might have activated in them. You know, someone has probably gone home and said, oh, we had this amazing guy today and he came and did Activate, and he did maths, and we were running around and it was brilliant. And then I had this mad idea and we tried it. And that for them is surely that's going to activate something in them. Yeah, compared to all the children that are told, shh, can you just be quiet? Just sit down. I don't want to hear it. I'm the teacher.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of an example from London. So we've got Lordship Lane down in Haringey, and I went with an idea and it just bombed completely. It just didn't work out. I'd not thought it through. And the children just said, well, don't worry, we'll think of a game to use those materials. And all it was paper plates with mathematical sums written on it. And then the idea was that we would turn the cards over and the paper plates would have the answers on the other side. And it didn't work out. But as I say, the children came up with this game. And because we had paper plates with numbers on, and they were matching their tags, which are red for even numbers and yellow for odd numbers. And they went, look, it's paper plates and it's tomato ketchup and mustard. And then I'm thinking, wow, I've never thought about the colour situation or the colour connection. And so there's a game in the pack called Tomato, Ketchup and Mustard. But then if I see that being played by children in Manchester or Leeds or Leicester, I'll reference the fact. And those children who devised the games, they walk a little bit taller. Yeah. You know, they have that bit of, pride in what they've done. And likewise, when I'm working with schools, I'll do an activity day, and I'll always ask the teachers to allow me to start with children year 5 or year 6 in a primary setting. So the first group come out, the first class come out, and I'll ask the teacher to choose 6 children from that group. And I won't want the gifted and talented children. I don't want the natural sport leaders. I want the children who may be lacking in self-esteem, self-confidence, or whatever. Yeah. And then the next class come in, and those 6 children stay with me and they watch me deliver a session. So they've played the game, they've watched me deliver the game. And then as the day continues, the scaffolding gets removed. So by the end of the day, they're leading the session. And, at lunchtime, you'll ask them, how's it going? And they'll go, oh, this is easy, this. It's much easier being a teacher. But by the end of the day, you ask them again, they realize that teaching is incredibly hard work. But you can actually see them walking taller. And, you talk to the teachers and they can see the difference within a day that empowering children makes.
Yeah. So you're hitting so many different things, aren't you? The confidence, the self-esteem, and then the physical activity. Just for our listeners, all the details of what Bryn is doing will be in the show notes. There's other videos on YouTube of how it works and things like that.
Yeah, there's various videos on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all those other things. Yeah, they're all out there to maybe visualize what it means. It's hard to explain in words, but once you see it, you get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously with the podcast as well, I'm always joking about the fact that visual things are very difficult. So yeah, definitely you're going to have to go on YouTube, because I'm not going to try and explain to you what I'm doing as we're brilliant. Okay, so tell me a bit about what things have been activated in your life. So was there a time when something got activated and you thought, right, okay, I need to go with this, that maybe isn't the Tagtivate stuff?
Oh my God, deep question.
We like deep questions.
I was brought up on Tyneside in South Shields. My parents, no longer with us, but truly inspirational in terms of giving us those different experiences. Yeah. So most weekends we'd go away camping, and come the summer holidays, we'd be up in Scotland for 6 weeks at a time. Myself and my 2 brothers either fishing or foraging. Sounds really hippie-ish and left of centre, but I suppose that was a way to activate my thinking in terms of that connection with nature. And then back in South Shields, I was an active member of Friends of the Earth, campaign for nuclear disarmament. So a bit of a tree hugger, to be honest, a bit brown rice, woolly socks. So I think I was probably, I don't know, not incentivized, but yeah, I was activated by a desire to do something about environmental awareness.
Yeah.
So what happened there? I worked in an urban study centre in Newcastle. So I was working with a team of architects, graphic artists, community activists, and it was about getting children to come into the Newcastle city centre to learn about Newcastle in terms of history and geography and town planning. And then I decided, okay, then I want to change the world. I can't do anything by myself. It has to be done through education. So I became a primary teacher, and it was a case of, can we do things about the environment, through the environment, but ultimately for the environment?
Yeah.
And then, of course, you become that PE teacher in the primary school, and then you get sucked into the system of English and maths and English and testing. And those ideals, they weren't squashed out of me, but they weren't the priority that they could have been and should have been in schools. It was all playing to the government agenda of standards, a very restricted curriculum. So maybe it was thanks to Ofsted and Nick Gibb that give me that activation to maybe do something differently, something better, something that's more in keeping with my true values. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I am feeling so energized listening to Bryn this morning. Just to remind you that we do singing lessons. Singing lessons is a great way to activate something inside you, particularly if you think you might be able to sing, but you just need a little bit of help. So get in touch with me on www.raiseforall.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. Back to the episode.
So, yeah, the whole thing about education and how much it's about maths and English and maths. But you were talking just a minute ago about your kind of background in the environment, and actually how many people are choosing things like forest schools now and doing foraging and finding things to eat and trying things out. And I think it's kind of coming full circle, and it's really interesting. And children seem to be choosing that way of doing things as well, which I think is really interesting. In terms of activating something, when we talked about activating a bank card, it's very difficult to deactivate it again, isn't it? You can't put it in the machine and do something to deactivate it. You could break it, the bank can take it away, you can run out of money. But actually, in terms of deactivating it, that's difficult. And that's how it feels when you're talking about your passion to educate, because even though you were then in this educational setting that was very establishment orientated and doing what you have to do and paperwork and all that, your love and your concern for the environment, and more importantly for the people in the environment, didn't get deactivated. Then it moved on to this next stage where you're at now, which I think is exciting, because I think there will be some listeners today that are feeling, well, actually, I am deactivated. I was really wanting to do this, and then this happened to me, and I was really disappointed, and so I'm not doing it anymore. So a bit of a challenge just to our listeners, as we like to do every time. What is it in your life that has been activated that needs to carry on going? Just have a think about it, particularly in lockdown. I think so many of us felt like, that's it, we can't do this kind of thing anymore. But it's still the passion within you. We were talking to Bryn about this passion within him to be environmentally friendly, and how he's still doing it even through the kind of confines of school. So what is it that needs to be reactivated in you? This is a deep conversation, but I like deep conversations. They're all right.
It's about behavior and behavior change, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about it, I mean, like, during the first lockdown, I piled on pounds because I was just sat at the laptop writing. So I'd been like, when schools went into lockdown, I thought, I'm not going to have any income coming in whatsoever, which was it's a major factor in life. You need to pay the bills. So I ended up writing curriculum content for BBC Bite Size, which was great to be part of a team. But ultimately, I'm sat there glued to a screen.
Yeah.
Second lockdown, it was a case of, right, let's do like mini hit sessions. And it wasn't Joe Wicks. I mean, like, Joe Wicks does what Joe Wicks does, but I was doing things differently. And it activated me. So, like, those sort of like, stand up on the hour every hour and dance around the kitchen for a bit. I was doing that.
Yeah.
Don't even try to picture that one in your head. But anyway, so
you're not demonstrating.
that now becomes habit in terms of, you do make that conscious effort, or it doesn't become conscious, it becomes the subconscious. You automatically do it. And that's why I think sometimes, we need to stand up and stretch and move around and go outside. And, it doesn't have to be like a triathlon or anything like that. It can be just a simple walk. If you're close to a river, I think flowing water especially makes a massive difference. Walk by water, walk through the woods, or plug yourself into some music while you're walking.
Or a podcast.
But it's that behavior change, and these things don't happen automatically, and sometimes it is a case of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 step back. But the friend of mine at Now Press Play, Tilly, she said you have to surround yourself with good people, so you're the dumbest person in the room. And I think that's important in terms of surrounding yourself with good people, as in people who are going to like support you, yes, but also challenge you and provoke you in a good way. And so the Tagtivate baby, for want of a better term, is now a toddler with tantrums and issues like that. So I also set up a community interest company called Move and Learn with a former head teacher, a former primary school teacher. And that is about supporting schools with changing behavior, changing ethos, changing culture. But we've realized that it takes people time to consider the benefits of everything. And we've got this sort of like catchphrase of small steps and big difference. And it's about, I've seen a couple of images actually with the ladders. So 2 ladders going up into the sky, and one of them's got lots and lots of small rungs. And the person's climbed up to the top of it really quickly, whereas the other ladder has massive rungs, and the person at the bottom is struggling to reach up. And I think that's something in terms of, that it's about empathy. It's about listening to people. It's about, thinking about their worries, their wobbles, their concerns, and, empathizing with them about why they're feeling that way, why they're thinking that way. And maybe collectively we can think of a way to help them overcome those worries, wobbles, and working on them together.
Well, and it strikes me, I love the picture of the ladders. And I'd go one step further in that it might be that if your ladder has a really, again, I'm doing it on the podcast, listeners, I'm doing the fingers to show the thing between the ladder rungs. But the wider between each rung, it might just be that you need somebody to give you a boost up so that you can get to the next rung. And that's something I used to say to Seb was, don't say I can't do it, say I can do it with help. And sometimes that's what you need, isn't it? It's recognizing that the bigger the challenge is, sometimes you do need someone to just give you a bunk up, and that what you're talking about, that kind of group of people, a support network that keeps things activated in you, I think is really important.
And I think that, going back to like primary school, we had like this a package called SEAL, and it was all about emotional aspects of learning. And there was one particular tool, and it was just a drawing of a tree with different, I wouldn't call them blobby people, but they were like jelly bean people, and you had to identify
where Wilson, isn't it?
Today on the tree. And it wasn't. It was okay to be on this branch, and it was okay to be at the bottom, or it was okay to be like the tree that was being the branch that was being sawn. But I do think that those whole aspects of emotional learning, in many schools, they were frozen out. They were put to one side, the same as arts and PE and sport, in this drive to improve standards in English and mathematics. And the SEAL program was good. It wasn't wonderful because a lot of it was let's make a poster, poster, which was good, but there's
lots of photos about feelings, weren't there? I remember lots of photos.
But maybe we need to get back in touch with those things in terms of, especially during lockdown.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bringing a few things out from that. What I'm finding really interesting at the moment is there's really becoming attention between physical health and mental health. So on one side, you're getting people saying, I'm not going to do this, this, and this because it's going to affect my mental health. But then other people are saying it, but if you don't do this, this, and this is going to affect my physical health in this way. And it's that tension between the people that are not feeling well physically and not feeling well mentally. But I think on the whole, people are recognizing that actually they need to be in balance. I think for a long time, people thought mental health was something that happened to some people, but physical health, everybody, you know, didn't feel well at some point. And now people are realizing actually they're totally, you know, they've got to have equilibrium. I might have to do that as a word for a week. They need to be in balance. And I think lockdown is teaching people that actually mental health is so important.
Yeah, I'm trying to think in terms of that connection between the physical and the emotional as well. And my hands are waving around there. So there's something that I've seen quite a lot of schools, and you mentioned with Seb as well in terms of like the growth mindset approach.
Yeah.
You know? And so there's a guy called James Nottingham, and he's got this program called the Pit of Learning. So basically the children prepare themselves for going into the pit of learning, and they know it's going to be tough to get out. So they're going to go into the pit and they know it's going to be tough, but they know that they are going to get out of the pit at the other end. So these children, and it was a school, and they'd done the residential, and they'd been to do some like abseiling and climbing on the high wires and stuff like that. And so they'd done that the week before, and they were still talking about it. It was resonating with them.
Yeah.
And then I noticed they've got this blue running track around the outside for their daily mile, the daily distance, the occasional mile, the once in a while mile, whatever you want to call it. But the corner of it looked like a pit, as in a pit of learning.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, okay, so let's tap into what they've learned about their thoughts and the feelings. So I said, right, we've run around, we've collected the tags, let's make the tags with the letters into words. And the words had to tap into their thoughts and feelings for when they were on their outdoor learning experience. And they were coming up with these amazing words in terms of how they were felt at the beginning of the session, during the session, then after the session. And they positioned the words on the running track at the U-bend.
Wow.
And then we've like photographed it from above. Oh my goodness. And it was that way to sort of connect those thoughts and feelings with actual words, spelt correctly, and then referenced with the dictionaries and the thesaurus back in class. But that to me was an ultimate tie-in in terms of the physical, the emotional, and that connection with the thinking as well, and the cooperation and the creativity of working together collaboratively to make those words and remind themselves about where they'd been and maybe where they were going to go in the future and how they were going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, you literally activated the words for them, didn't you? Because how many children are faced with loads and loads of long words every day, and they don't really know what they are? And yet what you did was you activated it, and you said, this isn't just a load of letters. This isn't just a word. This is a word that you've done. So you have been motivated, or you have been challenged. And that's always been a big thing for me. I've got a big thing against not telling children long words, because it's fine to do it as long as you tell them what it means, because that's then empowering them and giving them a chance to be excited about the words and be activated in their learning in a kind of a wider sense.
Yeah, during one of the lockdowns, I worked closely with, he used to be a deputy head teacher in Bradford, and now he used to be an advisor in Bradford, an English advisor called Philip Webb. Yeah. And Philip works with many, many teachers in many schools across Bradford and Keighley and beyond. And we sat down in terms of how could we activate the words so that it connected with comprehension and inference. So many schools, you know, they look at themselves in terms of where are they strong, where are they weak? And lots of schools will say, we're weak on comprehension, especially inference. So I worked alongside Philip, and he shared so much stuff, content, time, ideas. You know, he didn't want any money on the back of it. He just wanted to help me. And we created this gorgeous way to activate the learning in English. And so he said, like, what is one of the biggest barriers to comprehension and inference? It's a lack of understanding of vocabulary. So, can you collect the tags to make the word? Can you sing the word? Can you say the word? Can you whisper the word? Can you dance the word? Can you draw the word? Can you show it what it means in different ways?
Wow.
We've now got something that's incredibly powerful, that will make that learning more memorable. And it's, we go back to Bowling Park again, and like one of Stuart Harrington. So Stuart Harrington was then the principal at the school, and he brought in connections with the BD5 set of schools, and we brought in a guy called Mick Waters, and Mick Waters is one of my education gurus, and he said, why don't we make learning irresistible? So yes, we want children to be like successful learners, confident individuals, responsible citizens. But as teachers, as parents, as carers, we need to make sure that the learning is irresistible. And I just think, looking back on those conversations with Philip, we have created something that will make learning irresistible, not just for some children, but for all children. Maybe that's too brave. Maybe more children. Let's work on all further down the line. Yeah.
Okay, little steps. So we'll do more children, and then more and more, and then eventually it'll be all of them, and you'll be at the top. You can wave to everybody. But I mean, why is that a bad goal? Because we want everybody to think that learning is irresistible, because it's exciting, isn't it? It's the reason why I base all these podcast episodes on a word, because words are exciting. They're not flat and 2D. They are life. And if you can give life to that word, and it's so exciting to see each different guest that we talk to and the way that the word comes alive. And I love listening back to it, although it's a bit cringy with my voice, but because I'm learning more and more, and you hear different things every time you listen to it, because words are important. They're exciting. And words are irresistible, aren't they? If you use them in the right way, if you care about them, if you, I don't want to say market them, but if you market them in the way that makes it exciting, children and everyone will find it exciting. And why not?
And again, just because you've used the word once doesn't mean to say that that's it. You go into the next batch of spelling lists. You have to go back to those words and revisit them. And you mentioned in terms of rediscovering things there, you listen to a piece of music, and whether or not it's Moby or Wolf Alice or whoever, and you go, oh, I didn't realize that was in that song. Yeah.
I can't remember what I was doing, but I was listening to a song that I'd listened to over and over again. And I think maybe I was listening to it in these headphones, and suddenly the bass line just came through in a way that I've never heard before. And you think, how did I not pick up on that? But it's different ways of hearing it. It's your external environment, isn't it? Your internal environment, what you're doing at the time, how you're feeling at the time, where something just is activated, feels different. And it's that joy, isn't it? Okay, so we talked about a little bit about creativity, and I don't know whether you know, but I write a poem or a little verse at the end of each of these episodes. So I have to admit, I did it 5 minutes before you came on, just because I wanted to get it right, and my brain fog earlier on meant that I was repeating the same word for about 5 times, so I didn't want to do that. So here we go. Activate, motivate, feeling energized, feeling great. Force into being, cause us to see into the future, to move out of a groove, out of a rut. No buts. It takes guts. Not always easy. The results will be pleasing. Challenge taken. Reawaken. Activate. There you go.
Cue crowds cheering. You need a little bit of music to that, and just I'd be dancing to that. I would have that as a Tagtivate theme song for sure.
Well, I always I send the poems to the guests, so you can do with it what you will. Ask a child to put some dubstep behind it, and we'll be away.
Thank you ever so much. That's very generous of you. Very kind. Thank you.
This has been a really great interview. I feel really kind of pumped from just talking about so many different exciting things. So thank you for activating something in me this morning. That's brilliant. Anything else that the listeners need to know, that we need to know before we go?
No, as I say, if you put it on the notes in terms of how to contact, how to reach out, I love working and playing with different schools, different teachers, different community groups. And as I say, once you see it, you'll get it, and you'll look at it and think, that's so simple. I wish I'd thought of it. And ultimately, you'll go away with your own thoughts and your own ideas, and hopefully it'll inspire you to do different things with your life as well.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And just to remind the listeners, just have a little think today about what's been activated in you. And if you're feeling that it's become a bit dormant through lockdown, how could you reactivate it? And also, who could you ask to help you? Bryn kind of talked about that sphere of influence and people challenging you. And I'm here. You can get in touch with Bryn if you want him to come to the school. Just get in touch with us and let us know how we can help. Bryn, thank you so much. It's been a great interview.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day, the week, and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
A final thought from Seb.
Activate your joy and perseverance.
Thank you for listening to the Raise podcast. We hope you feel raised and inspired by this episode. Whilst we're not offering face-to-face classes currently, we are doing online singing lessons where you can have your voice raised as well as your confidence. If you would like to find out more, please visit our website at www.raiseforall.com or find us on social media on either our Facebook or Instagram page. Take care.